I've been trying to sort of consolidate the day-to-day Trump news into fewer segments, and I kept putting off the Trump approval story this week, but I have some interesting demographic numbers to talk about with you. So big picture, Donald Trump's approval rating has been pretty close to within the same range for a while, but it's lately trickled up a little bit. Here we are looking at the Gallup daily tracking poll. It's a rolling average of Trump's approval. A couple months ago, he had several bottoms out or bottom outs at 35, 34%. Recently, he's been getting back to some peaks of 38 or 39% in several days. Pretty small difference, right? Barely outside of a shift within the margin of error, but it is a daily rolling average. It gives us a little bit of an idea of what's going on. We've talked about these committed Trump ideologues before. These are the people that are going to be with Trump till the very end, whenever the end is. And then we've talked about other Republicans who seem to actually be paying attention to what Trump is doing. They have a connection to the real world. Donald Trump is losing support from two particular groups of Republicans. It's Republicans with college degrees as well as young Republicans. The older, uneducated Republicans seem to disproportionately be making up that sort of unshakable base that I've talked about Donald Trump having. Now, when I talk about the educated Republicans moving away from Trump, what do I mean? I mean they've completed a 4-year college degree. What do I mean by younger Republicans are moving away from Trump? I mean Republicans under 50, right? And there has to, it's logical that we would see this because these are the groups that have sort of ebbed and flowed in terms of support for Trump. During the primary, the more educated, younger Republicans were not the key voters for Donald Trump. Trump ultimately won the primary and the general election. And then we saw the younger and more educated Republicans mostly rally behind Trump, probably a sort of, listen, at least it's not Hillary. We are Republicans, so we'll rally behind Trump. But now it's that same group who seems to be realizing that what Trump is doing is not good for them. It's not good for anybody. And approval among Republicans with 4-year degrees down 12 points. Approval for young Republicans also down. And we wonder why Republicans hate education so much, right? It's funny to me that before the election, pollsters would point out accurately, if you're more educated, you're less likely to support Trump. And many Republicans would respond and say, oh, elitist. That's that elitist left-wing stuff. Even former disgusting Pennsylvania Republican Senator Rick Santorum knows that it's true that the more educated are not the key demographic of Republicans. Here's Rick Santorum in a famous clip.
We will never have the elite, smart people on our side because they believe they should have the power to tell you what to do. So our colleges and universities, they're not going to be on our side.
So the proof is in the pudding. The proof is in the pudding. And why is this important to understand? It explains a lot of right-wing hostility to higher education because it actually relates to their ability to have public support and get things done. It's not a question of smearing Republicans as uneducated. We're merely pointing out that among Republicans, if you're more educated, you're less likely to support Trump. And that makes perfect sense.
And I wonder if this demographic change will affect the results of the 2020 election, because as some of these young and more educated Republicans get older, we're only talking about 4 years, but also we're talking about a presidential race that is decided between maybe a few percentage points, maybe tens of thousands of votes. So as they become more of a significant part of the voting base, does that mean that they may vote for another candidate or may stay home altogether?
Well, I've talked about the numbers around this, and unfortunately, even with 33% approval and younger Republicans moving away from Trump and more educated Republicans moving away from Trump, Trump can still win. Even with 33% approval, Trump can win re-election because remember, only about half the country voted and only about half of them voted for Trump. So 25% of eligible voters voted for Trump. If he has a 33% national approval rating, sadly, Donald Trump can still win re-election. And this is why we've got to activate 2017 special elections, talked about Roy Moore yesterday, 2018 midterm elections. Don't wait around waiting for the 28% approval rating, which will take down Trump, because even with those very low approval ratings, Trump can still win. Let's take a break. I'll speak to Rachel Sherman next. Today's program made possible in part by independent artist Types. from Grand Rapids, Michigan, bringing you the War EP. It's a progressive humanist multi-genre response to the ongoing culture war in America. Let's listen to a clip from the song DARPA Dogs.
No, I don't want to be an American anymore. Our past is...
Yeah, I think multi-genre is right. It really does strike me initially sort of as alternative, but you can hear a lot of other stuff in it. And you can hear this song in its entirety at Types, that's Types with 4 T's, .bandcamp.com. You can also find exclusive demos and live recordings on the Types Patreon and YouTube pages, both of which also spell Types with 4 T's.